When it comes to digital forensics, book study can only take you so far. You're starting to sweat a little because the exam is coming up and you know you need some uninterrupted time to learn by working with real digital forensics tools. I'm happy to say that Amber Schroader, CEO of Paraben, is going to tell you how to quickly and inexpensively set up your own home digital forensics lab. It's a cyberwork hack. Welcome to a new series of short videos from Infosec. The purpose is to give you quick, clear, and actionable answers to the questions that you have about learning cybersecurity. So today's guest is Infosec Skills author and Paraben founder and CEO Amber Schroader. Amber's main episodes of our Cyberwork podcast, she's done 2 so far, plus a bonus, are among our very most popular episodes on the site. And today, Amber is going to walk us through something that I think a lot of you are going to be interested in, setting up your own home digital forensics lab. Welcome, Amber.
Thanks for having me.
So, Amber, what are the main tasks one can do or practice with one's own digital forensics lab? Yeah, how does setting up your own lab help you with your learning or study or practice of digital forensics?
I think it gives you an immediate experience point. Because a lot of times it's hard to get into the point where you're doing field work in an organization. And perhaps if you do consulting on the side, this lets you actively apply what you're practicing in a regular job. I always heard that you don't make your primary retirement in your job. It's what you do after hours that really kind of makes that impact. And you can do that with a digital forensic lab at home. It's just a lot of people don't think they can put it together.
Right. So this is something you can realistically create at home then. Is this something like how much space or resources does something like this require?
It's really just about having a private home office. And I say that it would be very difficult to do it probably, hey, it's part of my bedroom.
Right.
You start losing a little bit of integrity there. But if you have a private separate room that is your home office, you can maintain proper chain of custody. You can maintain all of your evidence and you can still keep your equipment separate. So you know that you're able to maintain the best practices, which is what we have in digital forensics. It's a little different than some of the other InfoSec areas.
Okay, so this is definitely not I can do it on mom's kitchen table kind of thing. You do need your own dedicated area.
You do need a dedicated area. Absolutely. You need somewhere you can actually secure it. I think one of the first things you buy is actually a safe, believe it or not. It doesn't have to be huge, but you have to have somewhere where you can put your evidence to control it when you aren't physically with it.
Got it. Well, let's talk about the safe and the other parts of it. What are the bare bones essential pieces of hardware and software that you would need to set up a digital forensics lab of your own? And can you give me a sense of like how much it would cost for a basic setup like this?
Well, a safe, hey, it's a perfect time to get them on the sales. You don't need anything really large, but you need to be able to fit whatever type of evidence you're processing in, phones, hard drives, et cetera, as well as what you process too. So your copies need to go in there as well. For what you actually need physical equipment, you need a separate machine. So you need a machine that you function as a human being on, you do your email, and then you have to have one dedicated to forensics. Depending what you're doing with that will change how powerful that machine needs to be, of course. I also like using virtual machines. I think they're a fantastic way to do forensics when you're on a budget. Because you can keep all your evidence inside that virtual machine, which is a bonus to it. You need software. There's some good open source platforms. There's good purchase platforms. And then if you're doing computers, you really need write blockers. If you're doing phones, you need something that you can do as a Faraday cage. And my budget-friendly Faraday cage is you go into Goodwill or other type thrift stores and buying an old microwave oven, cut the cord off the back, and it is a Faraday cage.
Wow.
No, in fact, I know it's like $10 Faraday cage, but who doesn't want a $10 Faraday cage?
Yeah. Can you talk more about that? What is that? How does that work?
So a Faraday cage really is just to block all the signals going into it. When you process smartphones and any type of mobile devices, you've got to control the signal with the device. So that's the best way to store it. Even though it's powered off, you never know what's going to happen. So you want to make sure you're maintaining that best chain of custody. And a great way to do it is that microwave. Just remember to cut off the power cord because someone accidentally has, of course, put it in there.
Of course.
Yeah, you know, and then there was a fire and it was bad. That's a bad lab practice. So,
okay. And again, just to reiterate, you made it clear, but I want to make sure I understand. Like, if you're doing digital forensics at home with your own lab, you have to be doing it on a system that does not intersect with your personal computer work. And does it have to be sort of like cut off from like Wi-Fi, the internet and everything?
No, you can keep it on the internet. Nowadays,
Okay.
tactics have changed, so you can do that. You think of how mobiles work, and you have to get new drivers, things like that. If I'm actually working on an active examination, I might disconnect for the internet for that time period while I'm doing my analytics, that type of
Got
thing.
it.
But it's not quite the cone of silence level it used to be back in the day. Now you
Yeah.
have a little bit more flexibility.
Are there any like tools or upgrades that you would consider as like upgrades if you feel like you have like the bare bones one, you got the you got the cordless microwave and all the pieces for stage one? If you feel like you're getting really good at it, are there things that like make it easier or more convenient if you have a little extra money to spend?
I think going to getting a disk duplicator, that obviously is nice because it has a lot more of the automated process with it.
Okay.
Some of those allow you remote examinations, which is fantastic, especially where everyone is kind of everywhere. But I would upgrade my software, and I know it's lame. I always upgrade my RAM. You can never have too much RAM in a machine. I really, truly believe that.
I agree. Yeah. So without showing a physical walkthrough here, what are the basic steps to get all of this hardware and software connected and running smoothly?
So the biggest parts is I actually keep 2 separate workstations in my lab. They don't have to be big. I take old kitchen tables, whatever it may be, because I like to make sure when I'm doing forensics, I'm focused on that. Not, hey, let me go answer this email, do anything like that. I kind of switch back and forth. So I like an L configuration. I keep all of my stuff cataloged. And I also have a camera, which I didn't mention earlier. But when I do evidence intake, I always make sure I take photos of everything because I want to document everything. That's a big part of digital forensics that's different from the rest of InfoSec is we have to take a lot of notes because we want to make sure we're not making mistakes.
Is it like a standalone digital camera or a phone camera?
Yeah, I have one that's actually on an arm. It's connected to the table, and I have an orange pad that sits underneath it. That's actually part of a yoga mat. They're great because they're soft. It's great to put evidence on it. It's not going to damage it.
Right.
And I just take pictures as it comes in because I've got my date timestamps, everything else, and it all comes part as chain of custody.
So what's the first thing you would do with a basic digital forensic lab once you got it set up? Can you suggest a first project that you could use to get your hands dirty?
I always like your first project to make sure you're practicing all of your proper handling and everything else is I always did my kids. I made sure all of my equipment was working based on processing through a family member, never your spouse or significant other. That gets really kind of awkward. So, but I do my kids' stuff. So I process it that same way. I said, here's the receipt. Make sure if I'm doing it at home, everyone knows when something comes in via FedEx or UPS and is marked as digital evidence that they're not handling it. They're not opening it because it's kind of training the people you're working with if you are doing it at home. So it's getting everyone used to that workflow.
Gotcha. So as we wrap up here, do you have any tips for our listeners who are wanting to get started and make the most out of their new digital forensics labs?
I think that they also need to work on paperwork. I know that's the silly part no one ever talks about, but you've got to have a set chain of custody, a letter of engagement, all the different protections that you put in place. And usually a lot of different organizations, I myself share mine with others because, again, we don't all have to fund lawyers. We might as well share.
Yeah. All right. So for our listeners who are ready to get back to their studies with their new tools and their new lab here, I'll just mention that you can find more of Amber Schroader on the Infosec Skills platform. So if you go look for our digital forensics section, you will find Amber's work all over there. So Amber, thank you again for your time and insights today.
Thank you very much.
And thank you all for watching this episode. This is the first, this is the early, for the love of God. This is the start of an ongoing series of videos, and we have lots more to come. So make sure to subscribe and check back. And until then, we'll see you soon. Hey, if you're worried about choosing the right cybersecurity career, click here to see the 12 most in-demand cybersecurity roles. I asked experts working in the field how to get hired and how to do the work of these security roles so you can choose your study with confidence. I'll see you there.